Hello and welcome. My name is Isaiah Kariuki, and you have found the Fury Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to try and explore the world around us through the lens of ideas, timeless, borrowed, and whatnot, passing thoughts, all that bundled up all together into the Fury Podcast. And the thing I wanted to talk about today was actually something I was writing about some time back, uh, called "The Map Is Not the Territory." And to be honest with you, the reason for me writing this was in the wake of what happened, with the Roscoco, story, and even not necessarily that. The reasons, or rather, the motivation of wanting to write about that was, in the wake of instantaneous communication, just what has happened and what continues to happen, and just how you can try and navigate, around the world, around that. If you to even think about this podcast that I'm actually doing now, it's an attempt almost to socialize you in a sense, try to make you see the world around you through my lens for a minute. And then if you to really think that, on a global scale, that is indeed what is happening. The mere fact that, if I can actually take, a pen or a microphone such as this, I can take a picture of this and I can just share that, and there are going to be a lot of people that are going to receive that. It's exactly how I think about the world right now. That everything is so much interconnected that even trying to make sense of anything becomes a nightmare. You know, everyone with a good microphone and internet connection and a camera can actually appear before the camera and just try to tell you some things, trying to sell you on some things, peddle you onto seeing the world in this way, or like, buy this, take this. It's exciting. I mean, it's not like I'm complaining. I don't think I would rather, live in the world. I don't think I'm trying to romanticize with the past. Yeah? I mean, here we are, and you kind of have to leave it as it is at the moment. But nonetheless, it's just something that just struck me, just how as it is right now, due to you know the mere fact that there is such a thing as instantaneous communication right now. Trying to make sense of it is a nightmare. Like, what do you ignore, and what do you take in? Because think what you may, there's a cost to information. Whatever it is that you have, or whatever it is that I have in my head right now, there's a cost to it. Trying to digest it as it is, or as I have it in my head, of course, blinds me into seeing another perspective. And then I was trying to think about it, in the sense that there's such there's such a thing, and there's something that is going to come up, in my podcast a lot. There's such a thing as mental models. If you have to take out, all the timeless ideas, all the big discipline, philosophy, physics, biology, mathematics, and trying to see the world. I was watching I was watching this movie, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. And then I remember there was this one guy, the ran around town, kind of dude, who I think the girl was trying to explain to him what the the cave of Plato is. It was so funny because not so long ago I had read about that, the Plato's cave. The idea being that, inside the walls of a cave, all that is real are the shadows. It goes deeper than that, but just it's sort of a metaphor of how you can try to navigate the social media right now, or try to understand just what there is or what could be real. Yeah, just try to take the nonsense from what is actually real. And I was actually thinking of this mental model called the map is not the territory. The fact being that maps are very crucial in navigating a certain area, but they are only an oversimplification of the territory. In which case, in most cases, it happens to be much more complicated. But maps are very necessary. They are very reductionistic in nature. They just take out, the snippets or just what is important. Because if you to take like a map of Nairobi, it doesn't necessarily tell you how people interact inside the city. That would be very important. I mean, if you're a foreigner who is visiting the city for the first time, I would imagine you'd rather take your bet, with a local who has been bred and raised in the city and who just understand every corner of it. What streets to be comfortable with, perhaps what area not to be comfortable with, downtown, perhaps he might mention, that is not where you just go around, just carrying all sorts of things, that is local knowledge that the map will not tell you about. But nonetheless, it's still important in, getting you from avenue to avenue. And that is the analogy. That analogy sort of, acts as a perfect exemplar of how I try to simplify the world around me. The mere fact that, a kid in Zanzibar right now can actually pick up a microphone and some good internet and tell the world something, and I will be interested. I stand at risk of being influenced by everybody. Everybody right now can actually influence me. You're being socialized right now. I am being socialized right now. And even this is an attempt to try and socialize you in a sense, try to make you see the world through, through my lens, right? And now since this is the new world and, we have to live in it and we have to evolve, evolution is still with that and it's gangster as it goes, eh? It only makes sense to try to, what would I say? Ah, catch a breath. Yeah. Try to navigate just through all that mess. Yeah. It's either that or you just go full Kanye and you just say that nobody can tell you no nothing. You know, can tell me nothing. Nothing. Kanye. Think about that, like take an average week, just what happens. Andrew Tate is released from jail in Romania. The algorithm, choosing that piece of information and it passes to me. Now I don't know what to do with that. The guy is in my algorithm. I don't know what the algorithm thinks of me, but it has handed me that information. What to do? Do I just brush it off and just say that is the cost of me being informed about the world affairs? you know, yeah. Who knows? Back home, you have insider information, telling you that, men nowadays are playing too much into the feminine side. And so deserving or tags of Ganothia, with Amerix, on Twitter, with his dear men beat, eh? It's just so much. Everything is coming to you. Then what drives you? Like that song I'm about to mention. How then do you know what to keep on constant replay, as a song and just what to ignore and just say this is alter BS. And I think that is why sticking to fundamentals. If you try to think about most people who, go by the names of the thinkers, there's something that they insist of sticking to the foundation and trying to build your way up from that. And I guess that makes so much sense. The fact that right now, you stand at risk of being influenced by everyone, trying to make sense of the world, then that becomes just much more complicated. But if you started laying the foundation from the ground up, it becomes much easier to know what is it to ignore and what to take in, right? And that is just in 1 week. And when we having that, you have the news coming in that right now, Shakahola, they keep exhuming more bodies, and Roscoco market is at an all-time high, right? All these things, that is a single day. And we haven't even gotten to the most serious part, of the 3% and the housing levy, it's just everything is just coming to you. Yeah. And it kind of makes sense, why you kind of have to specialize is that, you've got to the point where knowledge is in abundance, it's all over the place. It's how then do you organize all the information that is coming to you to kind of make sense of the information and know how to forge forward, you know? And then that is perhaps at the core of what I'm trying to talk about here is that instantaneous communication have brought with it very many merits. It has amplified, commerce, in ways that, were never there before. Most people right now are actually going online, and they're finding the niche market there and they're thriving, which is a good thing, all, But it has brought with it, some spiraling side effects that perhaps we still haven't evolved, or perhaps I haven't evolved well enough to know just how to deal with it. I remember Dave Chappelle had a very good joke about the times of now in comparison to how it was before. Of course, he was trying to romanticize with the past. Yeah? It was making a joke about how men in the past happened to be men, but a man could just wake up and just leave his family and go start a new family elsewhere, and no one would know because I mean, you have to get the boogie and the horse, and you know, running through the nightmare. It just wasn't worth it. Yeah. But right now, Dave could be performing somewhere in Australia and somehow, and still he has to call the wife every night to just check up on her. They're like, yo. Man used to disappear for a year. I can't even disappear for 2 hours. I gotta check on with you. All that the beauty of instantaneous communication. And this ability, of course, to broadcast has incentivized, creators and business people. And all in all, if you truly think about the beauty of just where we are walking into the future, the mere fact that, technology has made available to everybody, incentivized now people to become creators, and just enter into business. It's just that so much that is possible right now that wasn't the case, some time back. A good thing, all in all, the future is brighter. And of course, with creators comes now all sorts of noise, information, do this, do that, buy this, look at my shoe collection, marry this, why aren't you eating Cheetos right now? This is how you should eat, a balanced body should be like that. It's just that so much is coming to you at any given point. It's like, okay, what then do you pay attention to? Like the song, what do you ignore and what do you keep on constant replay? And then this is what I'm trying to map out, on my analogy of the map not being the territory, is you can try to adopt reliance dependency, in which case you take out whatever it is that you coming to you as a map. It is the map of Nairobi, but the underlying landscape of just how things are and the nature and just what is true, they see the territory. Anyone in any online corner telling you, how to and how to run a business is giving you their, what would I say, their winning ticket. But the whole landscape, or just what is real, perhaps is just much more complicated than that. Happens to be the territory. For it seems the interplay between genes and the environment, does produce very interesting results. You will never meet someone who is like the other. People have a way of interpreting the world in a very unique manner. And this, for the most part, you can blame it on the interplay of their genes, biology, and the environment, And I'll give you a little anecdote on how this is indeed the case. Peter Thiel, the guy who has written the book 0 to 1, I remember he made an off comment. I don't know what case he was trying to make, but I remember he made a case about Malcolm. Malcolm, I think, has written a book called Outliers. If you think about Malcolm, you can say on average, write books about successful people and just how they stumble upon their success. Anyway, in the book about Outliers, he was kind of making the case that there are certain ways that the stars aligned in a certain way for these kind of people to achieve the kind of success that they've achieved. And and of course you can see why he's trying to make the case, trying to offer a revolutionary way of thinking about success, and why perhaps you should not feel so bad about yourself for not attaining that kind of success. Right? But Peter Thiel makes a very interesting point about that. He says to really understand Malcolm, you have to understand the interplay again of biology and environment, the era in which he came from. What were people at that time? What or rather, what did people think about how to go about achieving success at that time? Because that is experience that he's borrowing in trying to make his case about, ideally, successful people. And that was very insightful, for me, because it is indeed at the core of what I'm actually talking about right now, is that everyone at the end is blinded by the experience. their perspective, and perhaps even their ego. That is to say, to understand someone like, Andrew Kibe, honesty, a public figure, has a very good following. And that is to say something about his message, right? To understand his message, you'll have to take him out of the equation and try to see his values, his beliefs, his idols growing up, just what he holds dear. It's only then that you can be able to understand his message. His message is still the map. To understand, you have to go deeper and understand the territory. Only then you can be able to know what to take in, what to take as a joke. I still think he's a funny guy. all considered. Yeah. You have to understand the man behind the man to really understand his take, his perspective, the way he sees the world, the way he thinks people should act, the proper way that, men and women should interact. All this plays into the narrative. If you're to even really think about such a thing as stereotypes, all that stereotypes do, they just happen to be an oversimplification of something, you know, like all good lovers, come from the lakeside. Well, not all. There are some perhaps who are in Embu somewhere, you know. but it helps, when you're trying to make a case is that, all these people from this certain area bundled up together, are like this. It's an oversimplification. But reality often is a case that is much more complicated. There will be obvious exemptions, and that perhaps is what will separate you from trying to think clearly and just trying to heavily just rely on the stereotype. And so, just like the foreigner who probably will find a local guide more resourceful than the map, perhaps even for us, we should try to invite that sort of doubt, reliance, dependency, and trying to just figure out for ourselves what is real and just what is not. Because then the risk of not doing that, you fall prey to everyone's influence. Then everyone can just show up and tell you exactly how you should go about your own life. Not necessarily how you think that that is the case, but then how do you distill what is true and what is not if you have no framework of trying to understand the world around you? So this perhaps it was more of an invitation to rely heavily on doubt. Doubt everything until you have trying to take in the new information and like looked at your own experience and seen if indeed it kind of makes sense. Just ignore it all. Like I said, I am choosing which songs, to constantly replay. More so, I'm trying to create my environment, especially online environment, into what I take in and what I do not. At least there is some personal agency there. There is still something I can do. Because it is indeed the case that you should be careful, what information to let in. Because there is a cost to information. There is a cost to information. That is it for now, people. Ciao. See you on the next one.